Hi guys, and welcome to another Bootstrap 4 video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Well, we're going to finish off our features page today. We've been doing the Bootstrap basics and building this features page. We built this little section here with some media headings, created a list. I'm going to create a section underneath here, be a white section, and we're going to build an accordion. And an accordion is kind of like our collapse modules right up here, where something appears where you click on it, but it'll have a title there all the time, and they're little breakout boxes. And we're going to just create a sort of frequently asked questions section. Okay, so let's get started. Here's our root folder with all our page files in it. If you've been following along, you'll know exactly what this is. If not, have a look at our beginning videos. There's a playlist down below this video. You can click on it to get all the videos from this series. So I'm going to open the features page, which is what we're looking at behind here, with my text editor. I'm using brackets here. If you don't have a text editor, brackets is absolutely free, and there's a link to it below this video also. If you've got a text editor, that's fine. Any text editor will do. So what I'm going to do, here's the end of our media list section up there. I'm going to start a new section, and I guess I'll give it an ID of FAQ, for frequently asked questions. Okay, so we'll start with a section, and we're going to give it an ID of FAQ, because we're going to want to target it at some point, probably with a bit of custom CSS, or roll to it with a link or something. This way, if it's got an ID, we can do that very easily. Okay, inside there, we're going to do our usual thing, and we're going to create a div with a class of container, because we don't want it to be full width, this section. And we've done this many times before. So we've got a section, and inside that section we've got a div with a class of container, which means it's boxed, doesn't go the full width. And inside there is where we're going to put our accordion. So start a new div. I'm going to give it the class of accordion, which is a Bootstrap 4 class, which will help us build this. accordion, accordion. And that's okay for a minute. Might want to give it another class of its own so we can target it, or an ID. Let's close that div. Okay, so there's our basic structure. Inside here is where we need to build our actual accordion modules, the things that are actually going to open up when we click on a title. So let's start with that. So we've got to start another div, and we're going to be using cards again. And if you've been following along, you'll know we've got some pre-styled cards that we use for our pricing section. If I get the site up, get that out of the way and go to our pricing page. We use cards here, and so they're pre-styled the way we style them, which is with this purple blue gradient in the background and a white border. So if we're using cards again, they'll still have that unless we give it another class and want to style it differently. For what we're going to do actually today for our features, that's going to work fine, that color and that gradient. But like I say, if you want to do it differently, just give it a different class and style it differently. Okay, back to the code. So we want to build our containers. So it's going to be a div, and it's going to have a class, and the class is going to be card, like I said just now. Now within this card, what do we want? What do we actually want to have inside our card? Well, we want to have kind of a heading or something that we can click on that's going to open up the bottom bit. So inside our card, we want to give it a header where we can put a heading that's going to open up the rest of it. So let's do that. We'll say a div, and this is going to have the class of card header. And again, this is a Bootstrap 4 predefined class, so it'll be slightly styled. We've got our own stylings too. I'm also going to give this an ID so it can target something. So ID equals, and let's call it header 1, HD1. How does that sound? HD1, nice and easy. So that's got the tag so we can identify it easily. Let's close that one out. And what do we want inside our heading? Well, let's give it an H2. And we've got those defined already. So I think I might need to make it a different color. We'll see. Let's just put it in there and see what happens. H2. And I might want to give it a class so we can style it a bit more. And our H2, we want to turn it into what's a button that's going to act like a button. It's going to be a link, but it's actually going to act like a button. So when you click on it, it's going to open up our little panel there. So inside here, we're going to give it a button. And we're going to give it the class of button link. Not any of the classes we've used before with our other buttons, because it would turn them into a colored button. This is just going to appear as a link button link, like a bit of text that takes you somewhere with a hyperlink in it. And what is it? It's a type. The type is button. And it's going to be a data toggle. It's going to be a data toggle, meaning that it's going to toggle some data on and off the screen. So we'll say data toggle. And what kind of toggle is it? Well, it's the same as we used above. It's a collapse. So it's going to hide or show something. So it's a data toggle. It's collapsed. And now we've got to give it the target of what we want to open. Well, we haven't built that yet. So let's say data target equals, and I'll just put a hashtag for the time being. Don't have to put anything in there if you don't want to, until we build whatever it is we want it to open. And then I'll put that target in there. Okay, so let's close that out. And all I need to do is decide what I want inside the button. So what do I want the title to say? Well, it's going to be frequently asked questions. So let's just write in here, say something like, I'm not going to put it in any tags. I don't want it to be specific text. It's H2 already. So let's write, what packages do you have? Question mark, I guess. I made everything capital. I guess I better put that capital as well. Okay. So that's what it's going to look like. That's just the heading. So now we need to create something for it to actually open when we click on what packages do you have. So let's just, here's our card. There's our card header. So after our card header is where we want to create something that we want to open. So let's start another div. And we'll give it the ID. This is where we give it that name that we didn't have just now. So let's just call it collapse1 or col1. Make that double L because I might have a col1 somewhere else. So it's col1. And that is the name that we now want to put up here where we didn't have a name before. And you want to make sure you keep the hashtag before it because it's an ID. See ID, so it needs that hashtag there. So data target, it's going to go to col1, which we're building right here. Great. So here's our col1, and it's got to have the class of collapse. And we've got to give this the class of collapse also. And let's close that out and decide what we want inside our card here. Well, we want a card body, so let's open another div up and call it a card body. That's where we're going to put whatever content we want. Div with a class. Like I said earlier, we've got these pre-styled because we style them for our pricing tables earlier on. So we want a card body, and inside our card body is where we want to put our content. So let's just grab a bit of dummy text and I'll put that one in there for the time being. I'm not going to put it inside any tags or anything. I'm just going to leave it as is. Clear up those gaps, because those gaps won't do anything. They won't even be recognized by the browser. There we go. Let's just close that gap. In fact, I'll leave that gap because we'll add another card there in a minute. Let's save this and see what we've actually got and see if it actually works. Before I do, I'm just going to go to that container and I'm going to use our gap 100. We created a class of gap 100 that gives space top and bottom on a section or a div of 70 pixels. So that our title won't be, our thing won't be pushed up against the top. We should have 70 pixel gap top and bottom. Save that. Let's go back to our site and see what we've actually got here. Refresh. And go on down. There we have it. There's our first collapsible section there. And as you can see, when I click on it, it opens up to reveal the text below. Now we're going to want to style this. I think I'm going to take the margin away from the bottom of this. That should put less space there. And I want to make this text light in color. And you know what? We've got Font Awesome installed. So why don't we have a Font Awesome right here? Like a little play button. So just for interest value. So that works fine. Let's just get it styled up the way we want it, and then we'll move on to adding more. So this is our H2 title right here, and that's our content. Let's go back and just add a couple of classes. I think on our accordion class I'm going to put text light. That'll make all that body text a white color or light color that will stand out against that dark background that we've got there, the gradient background. And also, let's take our H2. I'm going to give it a class of margin bottom 0, and that should shrink up that little M for margin, B for bottom, dash 0. It should shrink the size. I'm probably going to want to adjust it some more in a minute on the button link here. We'll see. Let's say those two. So we've added text light and margin bottom 0. Control S to save, back to the site. Refresh. Okay, didn't seem to make a lot of difference, that margin 0 there. Let's have a look at our text. Well, our text is light, so that's what we wanted right there. Just check that class. Yeah, I haven't given it a class. I've just said MB0. I've got to call it class. Equals open and close. There we go. Now that margin bottom might actually work because I've told it it's a class. I just put it in there raw. That's not going to do anything. Control S. Let's check that out now, and that should have made that the gap below slightly more. So because what I want is this to be kind of in the middle. So let's refresh now. – That's all right. wonder if we would change it to 1 or 2, it would probably be in the middle without me having to restyle this or move that. So let's try going back. And we'll change that to 2. That might be too much. Control S to save, back to the site. Let's refresh this time. I think that's close enough. I could give it 3, but that's pretty close. Let's go back and just give it 3. So we're going margin bottom. It goes from 1 to 5, 5 being the most, 1 being the least. Control S, back to the site. So experiment with it. It just saves you having to put custom CSS in. Gosh, I don't know. Let's leave it at that. That's pretty close to me. Okay, so I want this to be white. When we open up too, there should be less of a gap there. There we go, that's fine. So I want this to be white. I think that's the link, button link. Yeah, there it is, button link. Let's have a look. Button link, there we go. And I want it to be white. Great. So I'm going to copy this button link. Font size, do I want it a bit bigger than that? Let's have a look. Let's try font size maybe 20 pixels. It's kind of okay as it is. That's not too bad. I think I like that. Okay, we'll stick with that. So button link, I want to copy this from the dot to the closing curly bracket there. Control C. Let's put it in our custom style sheet. So we'll open our custom style sheet. If you've not been following along, we created a custom style sheet. This is it here, custom CSS, and I'm just opening it with my text editor. Let's go down to the bottom where we are right now. Let's add a new title. We'll call it accordion / accordion. Anything within the stars there will not be read as code, so it's great for using it for titles. Let's paste in the code that we just copied there. Oh, I got everything. I got more than I bargained for there. I don't need that. I don't think we're using the button link anywhere else. I didn't change the font weight, so we can delete that. And I did not change the decoration, but I did change those two. I might have to put important behind that if it doesn't turn blue straight away. Let's Control S and check it out. Let's just refresh. Yeah, that's worked. It stayed white. That's fantastic. And I see when we hover over it, there's an underline there, and I want that to be white too. Hover, and also, yeah, when it's in focus as well. So I think what I'm going to do is let's have a look here. Here's our button focus right here. So I'm going to want button focus, and also I'm going to want button hover. So let's go to our CSS, drop down. So that's button focus right there. I'm going to put a comma. I'm going to put dot btn : hover. Actually, I want it button link, not button, because if I do it on that, it'll change our existing button. So it's button link and button link. just like we've got up here. And color, I want it to be that. Font size, I'm not going to change, so I don't need to put that in. Let's open some, close some curly brackets, and within there, let's paste that color white. And we also want text decoration for that underline. We want none. We don't want an underline there on either the hover state or the focus state. Okay, so let's just save that. Control S. Let's go back. Let's get this out of the way for a moment. Refresh. There we go. Now when I hover, yeah, there's no underline there. When I click on it, no underline there. Just what I wanted. Like I say, that I'm fine with that gradient background that we've been using there. And it's got a white border. When we put more in, you'll see that a bit more pronounced. Okay. Okay, like I say, we've got Font Awesome installed on this site, which we've got there. Why don't we just add one of those to here? Let's go to Font Awesome and decide which one we want. And I'm going to go to icons. I'm going to select free only. And let's have a look. Something like this, something like a play icon. I think I'd like a square one. Got a square one down here anywhere. There we go. Something like that right there. Left click on it. Just left click to copy the code. Let's go back to our HTML. Here's our features HTML. There is where I want to put it. So I can just paste it just before our bit of text there. Give it a bit of space there. And I might want to target this. We'll see. We'll see. Save that and actually see what we've got. Back to the site. Refresh. There it is. Okay. That's actually not too bad. Might want to make that a little bit bigger. So, font size. Say 30 pixels. Might be too big. Yeah. What I'll do is I'm going to select the 30 there, left click and drag, and I'm just going to roll my mouse wheel down and I'll reduce it. That's where we want it, about there. Something like that. 26. So 26 pixels is going to do it. So we need to button link I think we can target, because it's button link there and we're targeting the I, which is the icon class. Now, do we want to... I'll make up my mind if I want to push that up or down. I think we'll leave it as is for the time being. It's not looking quite central to me at the moment. So let's just copy this, and it's button link I we want to target. Go to our CSS and we'll put this in there. Let's go to our CSS. Drop down, and it's again, it's the button link, so it's btn link, but we want to target the icon, which is the I. Open and close some curly brackets, and inside there we just need to paste that little font right there. Let's save that, go back and refresh. It should stay the same, but I think I've got too much space at the bottom here. What if I change that MB3 back to 2 again? Again, with this Google Inspector, it makes it a bit easier for you to do that sort of thing. Yeah, that worked perfectly. That looks a lot more central there. So let's just change that back, and I think we can just create our new ones. Don't know if I want a little bit more space between that and this. So let's do that too. So what I just changed there was the MB. I want to change that to 2. And if I can put more space in there, 1, 2, save that. We may have to do that with a margin. In fact, that would be very easy to do with a margin. I might just do that anyway. Yeah, because that gap is not being read at all. So let's just add a margin of, say, 15 pixels, 10 pixels maybe, 10 pixels to the right of that. We've just adjusted it. So let's say margin right, say 10 pixels. Save that. I think that should pretty much do what we want. Let's refresh. Yeah, let's put a nice little bit of space between those. Let's open it up, make sure it's going to work. Great. So I'm happy with that. Let's just copy it over and make a bunch more of them. Let's get rid of this inspector here. Say we'll have perhaps 6 of them. Let's go back to our HTML. Okay. So here it is. Here's our card. So we need to select this to this. And of course, in each one, you want to give it a different title. I'm going to keep the same icon and of course different content. And as with our collapse sections up above, if you want to split it in 2, you can do so with a row and using columns. Have a look at that video in our playlist if you want to learn more about that. But for the time being, let's just copy this one over. Here's the opening div, there's the closing div, card. Just need to grab it. Just close that gap out first, keep it nice and tidy. Here it is, card. Control C to copy. So there's number 2, 3. Okay, let's just change these titles out. I won't bother doing anything else. So here's number 1. There we go, let's just save that. Control S, let's go back to the site. Refresh. And here we have it. There's our little accordion section. And can you see what's happened there? I've hit 1 and it's opened up every single accordion because we have to give them a unique target, data target. So let's go in there. We'll start off at number 1. It's fine because its target is column 1. Here's column 1. So let's just change these. Column 2. Let's target column 2. And I'll continue going through these through to 6. I'll just pause the video. No point you watching me do this. Okay, so I've changed them all now. They've all got unique targets and IDs here, 6 through 1. So let's save that and go back to the site. This time, when I refresh it, I should be able to open them all individually. There we go, that one's opening that one. This one's opening this one, etc. So we're done here really. The only thing, I quite like them all being closed like that. We might put a title in there. I quite like them all being closed like that. But if you want one to be open by default, you can just give it the class of show and it'll be open. So if we want the first one to be open by default, where's our first one? Here we go, here's our first one. After the collapse on the bit that you want to show, just give it the class of show, and by default then it'll be open, and you can have 2 or 3 open, or none open, or whichever one you want to have open. Control S to save. Let's go back to the site, refresh. There we go. See, that one's open by default. Is obviously number 2 I did, not number 1. And when you open the next one, you can have as many open as you want. So there we have it. I'm going to leave it there. I'm quite pleased with that. I will change that show. I don't want that show. I don't want to have any open. I just want it to be like we see it there. Control S to save. Back to the site, refresh. Should remain exactly as we have it. There we go. And let's just put a heading in the top here. You can probably pinch that heading from up there and just take the class away. So let's go and do that, and we're finished. Now we had that heading that we put up here. There it is. I'm just going to simply pinch that one. Control C. And here's our container. I'm just going to put it above the accordion. I'm just going to say f.a.q. Don't want it to be white, so I can take that class away of white, and that should default to our blue color we've been using. Don't know if I need that little class or not. We'll see. That's pushing it up by 50 pixels. Let's save that. Control S and see what we've got. There we go, and we don't need that LTTL class. Let's take that off, and that should be more central. We really only needed that one on the white one. There it is, LTTL. Delete. Control S to save. Let's go back to the site, and we should be done. There we go. So we got our little FAQ title in there, and we got our little collapse sections there in the shape of an accordion. So that's how to build an accordion with Bootstrap 4. I hope you've enjoyed that and found it useful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, share, comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're interested in web development, take a look down below. We got some great free web development courses down there, as well as some premium courses with some huge discounts for our YouTube subscribers, so do check it out. Once again, this has been Jamie with System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.